Good day, and here's the promised video on how to convert from SketchUp into Xplane. It's a several step process, so let's get started. First of all, you got to download, of course, SketchUp itself. You'll also have to download this SketchUp to Xplane plugin from xplane.org. This is not a tutorial on how to install these, but the instructions are pretty straightforward. So, of course, first thing we're going to have to do is we're going to have to find a model, and we'll call it Rogers Center, we'll say, which used to be called the Sky Dome, but it's now called the Rogers Center. So we download this one, download the 2015 model, go to Downloads directory, open it up, start using SketchUp, and first thing I'm going to do is going to delete this ground plane. And then File, export the 3D model as an OBJ file, and we'll call it Rogers for now. Whoops. That's right. There's already a directory called. Okay, so Rogers.object, save that. That's good. Save it. Nope. And go into my save location, Rogers.object file. Bring it into 3D Studio Max. I'm using 2012 64-bit version. And once it goes there, we will import it. So, make sure these first three are checked. Make sure flip ZY axis is checked. And make sure that convert is not checked. Click on import. And we now have it into 3D Studio Max. So now what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to convert from multi-material, multi-texture into one material, one texture. So select the object, go up to the Modify tab, unwrap UVW, do that twice. You'll see why in a second. Bring it down, click Face, press Control A to select all the faces. Move all those faces to map channel number 2. Yes, we got to move them. Open up the UVW editor. Click on mapping, flatten mapping. Take away all the extra blank space so you use most of it that you can do. And you now have a flat map. Now what you're going to do is save the UVWs, and you'll see why in a second. So we'll call it final.uvw. So we've saved them. Now what we're going to do is we're going to bring up render to texture by pressing 0 on the keyboard. Make sure, I have a preset here, but I'll explain what all of them are. So obviously the Rogers is the name of the object. Make sure that we're select object settings are on, padding of 2. Make sure we're on channel 2 because that's where we put all the faces. Make sure we have a complete map, and you would do that by going add, double click on complete map, which I've already done. And then the file name and type, make sure we're final.bmp. Click OK. Make sure we're on diffuse color, which we are. We'll select size of 4096 by 4096. Render that. And of course it renders it out all into one texture. I always click save on here. And this happens to me sometimes, and I don't know why it doesn't save it. Final.bmp. So save that. And make sure it's there. So now it's there this time. Good. Okay, so now that we've saved it, we're going to assign it to a material. So we're going to right click on this and go delete it. Bring up the material editor. Select the second slot. Go down to diffuse. Change it to bitmap. Double click on final. Drag it into the first one, which effectively deletes it. And delete the second one. So now all we have is one material, one map. Assign it to the object. Turn it on to have a look at it. And of course it looks like absolute crap because our UVWs are not set. Now we'll load the old ones in. And voila, we're back. So now we have it set. Now we got to export it. And we are going to export it as a 3ds file. And we're going to call it rogers.3ds. And yes, preserve max textures. So now exit out of 3D Studio Max. And bring up SketchUp again. Starting SketchUp. File. Import. And the 3ds file. Rogers. Well, now we have one material, and close, and just place it somewhere around the 0 point. It's not really super important. And now we have the Rogers Center in there. And now we export Xplane object. This will be here if you put in the SketchUp to Xplane as detailed right at the very beginning. So now we export it. Oh, that's right. You got to save the model first. So we'll save it as rogers.skp and export it in the Xplane object. And of course it saved rogers.export. So now it's in this format. So we click, so now we're going to go into Rogers directory. We're going to take all this and delete it. We're going to go back out. We're going to take the Rogers object file, the final.bitmap. We're going to move them into the Rogers directory. Right now, let's test it here. If I bring up my web editor, and let's just say I bring up Toronto Island Airport, and go local, and I don't believe it's there. No. Okay, so I go into my models. No, it's not there. So that's fine. We will go into the library, and we're going to create a library object. Control V in Sandome. Search replace with Rogers. And replace. Close that. Sorry. Save. And now I'm going to bring up my WED. Bring up the Toronto Island Airport. Go into library. And I should have Rogers, and voila. It is now a Xplane object that can be placed anywhere in your scene. So hopefully that's helps somebody. I'll be on the forums if you have any questions. Bye-bye.